You may know Goldman Sachs is a huge investment firm for the rich and have probably seen them here and there on the news. But what exactly is Goldman Sachs and how do they go from investing to the rich to investing for the average person? Make sure to stick around till the end to find out. Welcome to Hari's Hobbies. So here's just some quick history on the roots of the company. Marcus Goldman was a Bavarian teacher who emigrated to the United States in 1848. He then established Goldman Sachs in 1869. His son-in-law, Samuel Sachs, joined the company in 1882. And soon enough, Marcus's son Henry and his son-in-law Ludwig joined the company in 1885. Goldman Sachs became one of the first firms to offer entrepreneurs with commercial paper financing, and the company joined the New York Stock Exchange in 1896. The company was growing rapidly, and just in 2 years' time, the company had garnered over $1.6 million in capital. In 1906, the company issued its first IPO in which it took Sears and Roebuck Company public. Later on, they also helped F.W. Woolworth and Continental Can go public. Over the years, after several acquisitions and expansions, Goldman Sachs has established itself as a market leader in the financial industry. The company launched Goldman Sachs Trading Corp in 1928 as a closed-end fund, but this quickly failed just the next year in 1929 during the stock market crash. Despite these major setbacks, Goldman Sachs continued to grow and they established their first international office in London in 1970. It even created a private wealth and fixed income division in 1972 to further reach in the United Kingdom. In 1981, they acquired J. Aaron & Company, which mainly dealt with coffee, metals, and foreign exchange. This was a crucial acquisition for Goldman Sachs as it helped them tap into the South American market and spur growth years later. In 1986, they established Goldman Sachs Asset Management, which is a company that to this day manages their mutual and hedge funds. There are 4 major branches that make up Goldman Sachs, the first 2 of which are investment banking and investment managing. The investment banking division accounted for 21% of all of Goldman Sachs revenue in 2015. Financial advisory involves advisory assignments on mergers and acquisitions, restructuring, corporate defense activities, risk management, and derivative transactions related to these advisory assignments. Goldman Sachs offers public offerings and private placements, including local and global transactions. The company gained a lot of fame in the 1980s for advising how to avoid forced hostile takeovers. The investment management segment, on the other hand, accounted for 18% of the total revenue in 2015. It provides investment advisory and financial planning services, along with investment products such as equity and fixed income that are spread across all major asset classes. These products are offered through separately managed accounts, private partnerships, mutual funds, and other structures. The financial planning services include trust and estate planning, charity donations, tax planning, and income management. However, the bulk of the revenue in this segment comes from transaction and management fees. The investing and lending segment accounted for 16% of all of Goldman Sachs revenue in 2015. This involves long-term investing and lending across a variety of assets, some of which include debt securities, loans, real estate, and private and public equity securities. Goldman Sachs is able to directly invest into public and private equities through its investment funds or through third-party managed funds. It provides financing to its corporate and individual customers through bank loans, mortgage-backed securities, and personal loans. The institutional client segment comprised of about 45% of their total revenue in 2015, but this quickly decreased to just 18% in just 2 years in 2017. The client services that are provided are based on asset class. It includes client acquisition activities in both cash and derivative products for interest rate products, credit products, mortgages, currencies, and commodities. Interest rate products include things such as government bonds and repurchase agreements. The credit products include things such as corporate securities and credit derivatives. Mortgage includes mortgage-backed loans, securities, and derivatives, or other assets-based loans, securities, and derivatives. And finally, commodities include commodity derivatives and sometimes can include physical products such as petroleum products and metals. In the end, Goldman Sachs is one of the most well-known and reputable investment firms on Wall Street. However, one of their biggest setbacks to date is the 2008 recession. Goldman Sachs was one of the firms that incurred massive losses during 2008 because a lot of their assets were mortgage-backed securities. As a result, when the housing bubble burst, Goldman Sachs faced financial disaster. The US Treasury actually had to bail them out as they fit into the Troubled Asset Relief Program. In 2008, the US Treasury invested $10 billion into Goldman Sachs. Goldman repaid the investment with the 23% interest in the form of $318 million in preferred dividends and $1.418 billion in warrant redemption. The issue was that from 2005 and 2007, Goldman Sachs issued a lot of mortgages and securities to a lot of people who had shoddy credit scores. This was clearly not a smart choice, and eventually when the housing bubble burst, this led to hundreds of foreclosures and significant losses. And of course, that in turn led to billions of dollars in losses for investors. The final settlement mentioned mortgages that originated from Countrywide, Vermont, and other companies. Countrywide was later acquired by Bank of America in 2008, and Vermont is no longer in business. This blunder mistake was clearly not going to be forgiven, and as a result, Goldman Sachs had to pay $2.39 billion in civil penalties. And on top of that, they had to pay $1.8 billion in relief in the form of loan forgiveness and financing for affordable housing. An additional $875 million was ordered to be paid in cash by other state and federal entities. To make matters even worse, the New York-based Goldman Sachs had to agree to a list of facts that destroyed their reputation. They had to agree that they misled investors on mortgage-backed securities, creating a false view of how risky the investment actually was. They also had to agree that the bank failed to do its due diligence. Just 3 years ago, in January of 2016, Goldman Sachs revealed that they had to pay $5 billion to the government in relation to their role in the financial crisis. As it is clear, the effects of the financial crisis are still very present in Goldman Sachs even today. And even all of those are just some of the times that Goldman Sachs had to pay out huge reparations. In 2010, the bank had to pay $550 million to Security and Exchange Commissions for misleading investors. They paid the fine, but neither accepted or denied the charges. And then in 2014, they had to pay $3 billion to the Federal Finance Housing Agency to settle claims with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. There are also several other private claims that have been filed against Goldman Sachs. And this wasn't the fate of just Goldman Sachs, as Goldman Sachs was the fifth bank to reach a multi-billion-dollar settlement with the Department of Justice in relation to subprime mortgages during the Great Recession, along with JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Citigroup, and Morgan Stanley. As it is evident, after the financial crisis, the reputation of the company took a beating, and this resulted in one of the greatest pivots of Wall Street history. So how exactly did Goldman Sachs make the transition from investing for the rich to investing for the average? Well, for starters, they became much more consumer friendly. One of their biggest strides into the consumer market is the launch of their banking app, Marcus, in 2016, which was named after their founder, Marcus Goldman. The business offers personal unsecured loans of up to $30,000. They are targeting consumers who are looking to pay off their credit card debt or just are fed up with other banking systems. The Marcus platform offers loans for 2 to 6 years from 5.99% to 22.99% APR. The lack of origination and prepayment dates, flexible payment dates, and overall simplicity makes it a lot more consumer friendly than other banking apps. Consumer finance is relatively new territory for Goldman Sachs, but they are confident that their knowledge and risk management technologies will help them dominate mainstream finance. This is especially true, and Goldman Sachs actually gains an advantage as most of their competitors are also going through a huge transition right now to digital platforms and new lending models such as marketplace loans. Furthermore, Goldman Sachs is making a strategic entry into the consumer market through Apple. The partnership was announced just a couple of months ago, and this new partnership will replace Apple's old partnership with Barclay. The deal is also structured a bit differently, as Goldman Sachs will have to pay Apple a fee for every single consumer card that's issued. With Barclay, Apple waived this fee in favor of interest-free financing. This is perfect for Goldman Sachs as they are able to directly enter a market where a lot of consumers take on consumer debt to buy Apple products. This is also perfect for Apple as they will be able to diversify their revenue streams as their iPhone sales are stagnating. Furthermore, executives hope that this will encourage people to use Apple Pay. Apple already receives a cut of the payment when you pay using Apple Pay, but they are expecting to make even more money when you use Apple Pay and use your own credit card to pay for it. Unfortunately, Goldman Sachs lost a good amount of reputation during the 2008 economic recession. As a result, they turned over into the mainstream market while using Apple and Marcus as their vehicles into the market. This, combined with their intense knowledge in the finance industry, has allowed them to excel in the consumer market as well and sustain rapid growth. And that is why Goldman Sachs has recently become more consumer-oriented and how exactly they made that transition. Over the last 150 years, they have gained a lot of experience, and while they got hit hard during the economic recession of 2008, they have survived pretty well. Whether you're fond of banks or you think that they're all evil, you can bet that Goldman Sachs will be around for quite a while. But that's all I have for you guys on Goldman Sachs. Make sure to comment down below what company you would like me to cover next. Also, if you guys like this video, then make sure to drop a like and consider subscribing if you'd like to see more videos just like this one. Until then, I'm Hari, and I'll see you guys on the next one.